What was the next one, Mr. Anthony? What was our next match?
It was a women's casino battle royale to determine the #1 contendership to Britt Baker and the AEW World Women's title.
Interesting match again. Obviously, the highlight of that was at the end. I thought it was interesting, though, how they sort of came out in groups, for lack of a better word, using the cards. So, if you were in Team Hearts or Team Clubs or whatever, obviously there was some sort of draw or something as to the order of it. Look, for me, probably the ending was probably more the highlight. I'd never seen that other wrestler work, the transgender one, before.
Oh, that Nia Rose?
Yeah, I'd heard a lot about her, but I'd never actually seen her work as such.
No, neither had I. And nothing saw me that impressed me anyway.
No. Look, she's sort of like a Kong, but nowhere near as good, in my opinion. But I didn't. Yeah, it was a hard match to sort of get your head around. I mean, and maybe because the new girl was coming in and they knew she was going to win, and blah blah blah. But it seemed to me a bit. I don't know. It just didn't quite have that feel to it for me.
Look, the one thing I will say about the Rumble is there was no stupid shit like superplexes and stuff like that.
Well,
they kept it in a traditional Rumble style.
And you didn't have to go over the top rope either. You just only had to go through. Well, actually, whatever way you went out of it, but that was interesting. They said that if one foot touched the ground, not both.
Yeah, that's right. So that was a bit like what they did the other night at the NWA, which they were the same rules. Which is interesting, which is quite different at WWE. Same as non-escaping of the cage. It has to be done inside the cage. You can't escape the cage to win.
Yeah.
Which harks back to the tag match. To me, they more run off the rules of the old NWA than what they run off what Vince has passed on as the rules. It's hard to get excited about any form of Rumble, really. Yeah. I mean, they're good fun to watch if you're watching them live in a show, and but to watch it on this is a bit hard. A lot of the women wrestlers, Thunder, I'll call her Thunder the Rosa, but Thunder Rosa. Obviously, she's a great worker. We know that Ruby Riott, which is another one of these ones that WWE let go, you sort of shake your head and say, "Oh, what were you doing there? What'd you get rid of her for?" And we can talk about that in a minute because I do have a theory, right, on why they let her go in the end. But most of them were really just girls that they just threw together. I think what's the Japanese one, Anthony? Is it?
There was a few.
The one something Ho. Riho, right? She held the belt there, didn't she, at one point?
Yes, she was the first women's world champion there.
Yeah, so I can understand her being there. I've never seen her wrestle, but some of the others, they were just there just make numbers up. But that's what a Rumble is. It's there to make numbers up. It kicked the door open for Ruby Soho. Once again, I can't figure out why WWE moved her on, but I have a theory.
Yes.
I think that Rhea Ripley was the cause of that. Not that Rhea Ripley went out and stabbed her in the back. I think they've had two people with a similar gimmick, with that punk rock gimmick, and they probably figured that Rhea Ripley is the better one of the two. Because you can't have two people.
Put them on the separate brands, and at some point bring them together.
You could. I don't know if that's what they were thinking though long term, because there's no other reason for me to see for them to bring in some of the girls that they brought back and get rid of Ruby and Mickie James, which is another still to this day I sort of shake my head and say what was that all about. The only thing I think they might have thought there was a clash between the two punk rockers as far as who they were going to push. One wasn't going to stand out if you got two. That's the only thing I could think of when I was watching the show, because I was trying to think to myself, why would you get rid of this girl? Why would you move her on? I just don't get it. And then I sort of thought about it, and I thought, well, Rhea Ripley is physically bigger.
Right?
She's more of a matchup for people like Flair and that physically.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of thinking, and she hasn't been also burnt in the cards so many times. It's not funny when she's been put into stupid groups and stuff like that, and taken pins, and so she's a clean skin. So they've got similar gimmicks. So they moved on Ruby Soho, Ruby Riott.
But you know that the locker room disagreed with the decision when you see all of the, and I'm not on Instagram, but I've seen a lot of the posts from like Liv Morgan and a lot of the people still in WWE and their messages of support and their messages about her match and whatever. So that tells you, I mean, it wasn't that she wasn't popular in the locker room or she wasn't a good worker. Even Mick Foley, has gotten on the action and stuff.
When I saw her, I've seen her a few times. When I saw her at WrestleMania, for me, and the tags, she was the one that stood out the most, right? And I couldn't, that's what was my only reasoning. But once again, who knows what's happening in the world of Nod in WWE? What's going on there? I don't know. Anybody knows what's going on there. I mean, it's almost like it's a rudderless ship right now. Nobody's got an idea what's going on.
Well, Vince called an emergency meeting of all the writers and producers straight after this pay-per-view.
First thing he should do is sack the whole lot of them.
Well,
the
people that are in his ear are the problem.
It's exactly right. 100%.
They're the problem.
100% right.
And now you got Triple H out having had the surgery.
We still got Shawn Michaels there.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone's going to tell, Vince McMahon what's the truth is, it's going to be Shawn Michaels.
Well, you'd like to think Triple H would as well, but
he's got married into the family.
Yeah.
There's personal stuff. They're interlinked more than the business. But with Shawn Michaels, he's notorious for just telling Vince what he thinks. And I would think that he would tell Vince straight up, like this is just bullshit. Everything you're doing at the moment is bullshit.
It's like they're going down this track, and again, we don't want to get too off topic, but with them now taking over NXT and whatever. See, Rick Steiner's son has been rebadged, and he's going to make his appearance very shortly.
Yeah, well, it's not off topic.
It's all about homegrown now.
This is not off topic of what we're talking about, because we have just seen that their main competitor in the market has just got a significant leg up from their mistake. The mistakes, plural, right? Also, too, the heavy-handedness of Vince and the writers and everything else over the years, and you'll do this like this, and you'll say, Tony Khan's saying, come across and work how you want, which is detrimental to Tony Khan, and I'll talk about that later on the show. Right, and the whole system, because we're starting to get a WCW thing happening over there, right? Which is not good, right? But I don't understand is Vince should have seen this and took AEW seriously once Miro went across. Said, okay, well, they're now poaching people. We need to, not poaching, but picking up the good talent that we're letting go. But the problem with Vince is he lives in the land of Nod. Yeah. He's in the WWE universe, and it's only in the WWE universe that he concerns himself with. And he hasn't realized that the rest of the world doesn't live in the WWE universe, it lives in the real world.
Yeah. Well, did you hear the quote, and I can't remember it word for word, from John Moxley, but he was saying, Vince wouldn't even watch it, and he'd say, what's this shit?
Yeah.
And he apparently said it in the Vince voice. That and he said, look, he wouldn't even watch it, and he'd just say, what's this shit? So that backs up your point there. Like, he just thinks, well, I've got my product, it's the best. And in a lot of respects it is, with the global reach and the money they got and the infrastructure, and it's in 200 countries or whatever and all of that. But the problem they've got is they're being left behind significantly.
Well, I'm going to say this, right? Nobody thought the Twin Towers could come down.
No.
And a little old plane brought it down. The AEW is a little old plane. And I know it's probably not the right thing to say as far as... but it is. But the analogy is that's all it took. At the end of the day, it was a couple of little planes, right? Brought it all crashing down. And that's what Vince is not seeing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the people he's got around him, as you said, 100% right. You know, with Bruce Pritchard, which is a yes man, and so is John Laurinaitis, which is a yes man. Whatever Vince says, instead of staying to Vince, listen, mate, you're 70-something, you're out of touch, right? And you need to get into touch here because you're about to lose your business. They'll just ride that ship until it goes in the ground, and they're ready for retirement anyway.
Yeah, well, it's fine for them, but what about for everyone else?
That's exactly right.
And the ones who have stuck loyal, and the both fans and workers, and I mean that company employs no doubt thousands of people, like
That's
all
right.
behind the scenes stuff and everything. Like, you know, it's not well we buggered it up, and Vince walks away with 1.5 billion or something.
Oh, he's going to walk away with money. For him, this is not going to touch his personal wealth.
No, not at all.
It's a company, or they'll just sell it off to Disney or someone like that.
Well, there's talk that Disney's interested.
Yeah, but you've got Paul Levine, which is his son-in-law, right, which is Triple H.
Yeah.
And you got Shawn Michaels there working NXT. These are guys that were instrumental in the Attitude Era. They come up with the Attitude Era, right? And they're still of an age to understand what's going on in the mind of fans. Why would you not be using these guys instead of two guys that were mediocre at best in their time in the business, in Pritchard and in Laurinaitis?
Yeah.
Laurinaitis only got anywhere because of his brother.
Yeah, true.
Right,
True.
the animal, right? Why would you not be taking those guys? If you can be blind and see this, take their help and their information and move forward. But the problem is Vince's ego. He doesn't like the idea of anyone saying, no, you don't have a good idea, Vince. And sometimes, as you get older, you lose sight of that. And I think he needs to gain sight of that and say, listen, I need somebody else running this thing that's a little bit more in touch.
It's in a lot of ways it's sad.
It is extremely sad because you're seeing a company go downhill purely because of a few people.
Yeah, literally.
Right. That won't sit back and say, okay, we don't really know what the current pulse of the situation is. We need to bring somebody in. And as far as writers and that, a pro wrestler is not an actor.
No.
That's what anyone believes. Right? We are stuntmen with character. Right? And that's why some of us as wrestlers don't get over, because we don't have, that much character or panache or what would you call it, charisma.
Yeah.
And there's some guys that wrestle and have great charisma and get over and people want to see. But we're not actors. So why write out storylines? Why write out scripts for these guys? If they can talk, let them talk. If they can't talk and they're not getting over, let them job.
Or give them a manager or something.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. But, this whole thing about scripting everything out from it sounds phony. And now you've got guys on the other channel on AEW, on Turner's network, that are just saying what they want to say. And it's not scripted, and they're getting over better.
Yeah. Well, and further to your point, I don't know if you remember him, but he was an NWA World Junior Champion, English wrestler by the name of Les Thornton.
Yeah.
Now, Les Thornton was in Australia, New Zealand. He worked in WWE. He's worked in NWA. One of the best I'd ever seen technically, but dry as paint, no charisma, nothing. But a lovely guy, like a really, really nice guy, as a person, brilliant work and the whole thing. But there wasn't that charisma that fans latched onto, and he never really made it for where someone with his talent should have. And that goes right back to your point about the charisma and the connection.
It's not about skill in the wrestling business. People have got this thing of it's all about how good you wrestle. It's not. It's how many bums you put on seats. How much charisma you have.
I worked with for a very long time. I didn't know, to use an old, a very overused cliche, didn't know a wristwatch from a wrist lock.
Yeah.
But he had a bloody good gimmick, and the place would absolutely erupt when he came out.
That's right. Exactly. And that's what really makes it a good worker, is somebody who puts bums on seats.
Yeah.
It's the other workers around him, if he's bad, and their technical ability to make him look good.
Yeah.
It's, you pride yourself if you're not one of these guys, and you sort of like I was always a heel. My job was always to get these guys over. They might have not been the most technically the best, but you had to get them over. You had to show that they were legit in the ring. So when we're talking about that, you know, it harps back to Vince's thing of trying to make superstars.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, you don't have it.
And not everyone can be a superstar.
No, that's right.
You
Gets
know.
onto these. This is where at the end of this we'll go on to about the potential downfalls of AEW. You know, but we will